At the top, details of a planned protest by members of the Texas congressional delegation and others to contest the results of the presidential election. With just 2 weeks until Inauguration Day, Senator Ted Cruz is leading a group of GOP senators who plan to raise formal objections tomorrow.
Brian Burns has local reaction in tonight's top story at 6.
We're just 15 days away from Inauguration Day, when Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. But with 2 weeks left to go, a group of senators and congressmen led by Texas Senator Ted Cruz plan to formally contest those election results on Wednesday. Texas senior Senator John Cornyn has announced he will not be joining that group.
So I fully expect, unless there's some surprise that none of us know anything about right now, that Joe Biden will be the next president.
Here at home, we asked Nueces County Republican Party Chair Jim Kalin if he agrees with the planned protests. He says there have been a lot of surprises in the past 4 years.
I didn't believe he could win. When I went to bed that night, most of the polls had declared Trump the winner.
Of course, on election night, no one had been declared the winner, and election officials had long predicted that mail-in ballots, which tend to be mostly Democratic, would take several days to be counted. But Kalin says he still has too many questions about election results to ignore the protest.
There's questions that remain unanswered, at least to my satisfaction, and we as American people deserve the right to have answers to those.
We ask our resident political expert, Dr. Bill Criss, what he thinks the Washington protest and protests across the nation will accomplish.
Well, I don't think it's going to have any impact on the results of the election.
Criss says he feels the actions by President Trump and protests will further erode confidence in the nation's election system.
And it remains to be seen whether his efforts and his protests may in fact cost the Republicans control of the Senate.
Cruz and 10 other GOP senators say they would oppose certification of President-elect Joe Biden's victory when Congress meets Wednesday to review the Electoral College outcome, demanding a 10-day delay to allow an emergency audit of results in battleground states where President Donald Trump disputes the outcome. Brian Burns, 3 News.